The Olah sacrifice will be burnt all night long, and in the morning the ashes will be lifted and put next to the altar, and that is called Trumat Hadeshen. The Kohen changes his clothes and takes the ashes out of camp. Every morning the Kohen will make a certain structure out of wood, which is called the Ma'aracha, and on it the fire must always be burning. Mincha is made of fine flour, oil, and frankincense, without chametz. The Kohen lifts an amount of it in his fist and throws it into the altar fire, and the rest is eaten by the Kohanim. A Kohen who begins working in the Mishkan for the first time brings a minchat chinuch, which is fully burnt on the altar. The Kohen Gadol brings every day a minchat chavitin, half of which is sacrificed in the morning and the other half in the evening, and it is fried in oil and fully burnt at the altar. The chatat is slaughtered at the north of the altar. The sacrificing Kohen eats it in the borders of the chatzer, and if its time ends, it must be burnt. If blood of the chatat is absorbed into a cloth, it must be cleaned in the borders of the Mishkan. If the chatat is cooked in a dish made of clay, then it must be shattered after the time of eating is over. If the chatat was cooked in a dish made of copper, it must be purged and dipped in water. The chatat of the Kohen Gadol or of the Sanhedrin will be fully burnt. The hasham is slaughtered at the north of the altar, and its blood is thrown on its corners. The fat, tail, and the fat covering the innards are burnt at the altar, and the rest is eaten by the Kohanim at the Mishkan courtyard. A person who wants to thank Hashem brings the shlamim sacrifice and adds it to 40 breads, 30 of them unleavened and the other with chametz. The meat of the sacrifice is eaten only on that day, but a person who brought a nedava or neder sacrifice can eat it on the next day too. On the third day it becomes notar and it's forbidden to eat from it. If a person plans in his mind to eat the meat on the third day, the sacrifice immediately becomes a pigul and it's forbidden to eat it. Holy meat which is impured must be burnt. An impure person who ate from the meat of the Kudashim is punished by karet, as is a person who eats blood or chelev. A person who sacrifices shlamim lifts the chelev and the breast with a kohen. Moshe is ordered to gather Am Yisrael in front of the Mishkan for the 7 days of inauguration. Aaron and his sons dip in water. Aaron wears his clothes. Moshe anoints the Mishkan and its tools with the mishcha oil and sprinkles it on the altar 7 times and pours it on Aaron's head. Aaron leans his hands on the chatat bull and Moshe slaughters it and smears the blood on the altar and pours it into the altar base and burns the innards fat, the diaphragm with the liver, and the 2 kidneys with their fat. Aaron leans his hands on the olah ram and Moshe slaughters it and throws the blood on the altar and burns the ram. Moshe sacrifices the inauguration ram, which is sacrificed when Kohanim enter their work for the first time. Aaron and his sons lean their hands on the ram. After it is slaughtered, Moshe smears the blood on the right ear cartilage of Aaron and his sons, the thumb of their right hand, and the big toe of their right foot. The rest of the blood is thrown at the altar. The tail, the innards fat, the diaphragm with the liver, the 2 kidneys with their fat is burned at the altar, and Moshe lifts the various kinds of pastries with the Kohanim. Moshe lifts the breast from the inauguration ram and sprinkles on Aaron and his sons from the blood which was on the altar. Moshe orders the Kohanim to cook the meat of the inauguration ram next to the entrance of Oel Moed and eat them with chalot. The remains will be burnt. All of the above was repeated on every day of the 7 days of inauguration.